Okay, 5.7, the quadratic formula. This should be something that all of you know. How many of you know the song? The song for the quadratic formula? Anybody want to sing it for us? I have it. I could look it up. I don't want to sing it. That's just embarrassing. What's the song that it goes to? Oh, you know it to Jingle Bells? I think it's like the Jack in the Box song. Yeah. I'll look it up and play it for you guys later. Okay, because I don't want to sing it. Anyways, when you would use the quadratic formula, is when you have equations that are not factorable, or like look at B. See how this has a coefficient in front, but I couldn't take 2 out from 7, right? So I couldn't complete the square on this one either by factoring out a 2. So your only option is the quadratic formula. The one thing with the quadratic formula is that it will always work. So you can always factor using the quadratic formula, and you could never, like, you don't ever have to use completing the square if you didn't want to use it. Okay? But some questions, like on your state test, and some questions on the test will say, what would you need to add to both sides in order to complete the square? So you need to understand how to complete the square, but when you're solving problems, you can always use the quadratic formula. That is the one formula that will always work. I'll pass out index cards later if you guys want them, because it should be something that you quiz yourself on, because I'm not giving you this formula on the test. You need to know this. This should be something that you learned in Algebra 1. Okay? All right, so when you are using the quadratic formula, the most important thing is that your equation must be equal to 0, and you want to make sure also that you are in descending order. And I'm not sure if I spelled descending right, but you guys get the point. Okay. So on example 1, is it set equal to 0?
Yes.
Yes. Is it in descending order? Yes. So then you can write out your A equals what? 1. B equals -4, and C equals 1. Okay, you have your quadratic formula at the top. So when I plug in -b, I'm going to end up getting what? +4 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So I write that as -4 squared minus 4 times A is 1 and C is 1. And this whole thing is divided by 2A, which is 2 times 1. And then all we need to do now is simplify. So what is -4 squared? +16 minus, and 4 times 1 times 1 is? Good. So when I rewrite this over here now, I'm going to go write this as 4 plus or minus the square root of 12 all over 2. Can 12 reduce? Yes. 12 breaks down to 4 and 3, and 4 is 2 and 2. So I have a pair of 2's with a 3 left over. So I would write this as 4 plus or minus 2 root 3 all over 2. Getting this, Eddie? And then I would always end up writing this as 2 separate fractions so that I make sure I reduce correctly. So I'm going to write this as 4 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 3 over 2. Can this reduce? Yes. 4 over 2 becomes 2, so I have 2 plus or minus. These 2's cancel out, so I have 2 plus or minus root 3. And there's your answer. Okay? All right, B. Is this set equal to 0? So what do I need to do? Very good. Subtract 11. So now I have 2x squared plus 7x minus 11 equals 0. Is it now set equal to 0 in descending order? Good. So A equals, good, B equals 7, and C equals so we use our quadratic formula. So negative b will be -7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times -11 all over 2 times 2. So I always simplify what's under my root. So 7 squared is what? 49. And then when I multiply -4 times 2 is, and then -8 times -11 is +88. So this ends up making -7 plus or minus the square root, and 49 and 88 makes 137 divided by 4. And 137 does not break down. So you could still separate this into two fractions if you want to, but nothing's going to reduce. So you could leave your answer like this. All right. Questions on B? Okay. C. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but your x squared term always needs to be what? First, and it always needs to be positive. So which way do you think we should end up moving everything? To the right. So I'm going to add 5x squared over here. I'm going to have to subtract 7x. Also notice how I'm kind of lining up my terms so it's easy to simplify. And then I'm adding 4. So when I do that, I'm going to write it in descending order. I have 5x squared, and then -7 and +2 makes what? Good, -5x, and then +4 and +3 makes. And this is now set equal to 0, and my x squared is positive. So now what are my A, B, and C values? Good, A is 5, B is -5, and C is 7. For time's sake, we're going to go ahead and keep doing this together. So my negative B value will be what? Zane. Okay. Plus or minus the square root of B squared, which is -5 squared, minus 4 times A is 5 times C is 7, all over 2 times 5. Okay, so when we go through this one, -5 squared is what? 25. And then -4 times 5 is? And then -20 times 7 is? And when we simplify this, 5 plus or minus the square root, and what does that become? -115 is correct. All over 2 times 5 is? So we take out the what first? Negative. So I have 5 plus or minus I root, and 115. 115 breaks down to what? 5 and 23, which we can't pull anything out, so we're going to keep that as the square root of 115. All over 10. Yes. So since I can reduce the 5 and the 10, how should I write this? Two separate fractions, okay? So we have 5 over 10 plus or minus I root 115 over 10. So 5 over 10 reduces to what? 1/2. So I have 1/2 plus or minus I root 115 all over 10. Because I can't reduce the 10 and the 115 because one's under a root and one is not, right? Where here, those were both not in roots. Okay, so example 2, this last part, we're actually not going to go through it all because of time. You guys have a quiz still today. But this one, if you factor it, you would end up getting x plus 8 and x plus 4. Those multiply to be 32 and also add to be 12, which gives you the value of x equals -8 and -4 when you set those equal to 0. If you were to do the quadratic formula where a equals 1, b equals 12, and c equals 32, and you plug those numbers in, you would end up getting x equals -8 and -4. The same answer. For time's sake, we're not going to do it, but if you guys want to on your own time, have fun with that, and you'll get the same answer. Okay, we're done for that.